The basis of the Bridge project is to bring Christian faith and hope and love to young people. And thank you for reading out 1 Corinthians 13, because it sums up our ethos perfectly well. Now, I'm sure many of you have young children in your families, whether they're children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, perhaps a child of a friend, or somebody as a neighbour. And I wonder if you think about what aspirations that they have, what futures do they see, and wondering how many know their value. And you also maybe are wondering genuinely if they have someone to talk to. Social media, is now a very important part in all our lives. And even though some young people will have 300 friends on Facebook, 300 on Instagram, however many, how many of those contacts, how many of those friends are actually genuine friends? And how many of them also know the love and the freedom of Jesus Christ? I hope I'm pressing the right button. So our aim is to act as a bridge between the schools and the churches. I have to say, it took us ages to do that photo. That's me in the middle there. That's Alex on the left, and that's Dave on the right. And we were hanging there for hours, and then they couldn't find a picture of a better picture of a school, but never mind. So it's just trying to get young people into our churches. It's not just about trying to get young people into the churches. It's about getting the church into our schools, to sharing the gospel, and it is an immense opportunity and an immense privilege. And we believe in local churches and the power that they have to make an impact on schools and the community as a whole. And for people of all ages to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to our children and to the young people in a whole variety of different ways. Our desire is to support and encourage the church to reach their local schools. And we also want the young people to have the opportunity to explore and develop and discover what it means to be a follower of Jesus. We don't want to just be supported by churches in our areas. We want to be partners with those churches, with local people serving their local schools. So what do we do? What do we do, Dave? Sorry. We've got a fantastic team of 9 paid staff, which includes Dave and myself, and over 40 volunteers from across a wide range of churches with different denominations. And we work across approximately 27 schools in the Salisbury, Amesbury and Durrington areas. And there are 2 sections within the bridge. We have the primary and the secondary, and I'm part of the primary team. So we've got 4 relational hubs, north, south, east and west. I work for the north area, which Amesbury is covered in. There are 3 other paid members of staff. Louise, who's the lady there, she's the section leader. Makes it sound like something out of the army, but she's not. She's lovely. And the lady at the top is, her name is Brenda. She's one of our very faithful volunteers, and she's just great with the young people. She really engages well with them. Although we're full-time, the rest of the team, the volunteers, can give up to anything between an hour to 10 hours a week. We're going into 16 different primary schools on a regular basis, just to enhance the Christian teaching to all 7 year groups, from the early years reception class through Key Stage 1, through to Key Stage 2, or if, like me, you're an older person, sort of infants and then junior schools. And we want to create a strong basis of learning before that child goes on to secondary school. We've adapted what's called the 8 core, core concepts to Christian learning from the Wiltshire Diocese, and we've been able to provide resources to our teachers and their support, and to support their teaching staff with big Bible stories and enhancing it with a more detailed insight. We've often been told by staff how they're daunted by the concepts of some theological understanding and the amount of preparation and learning that has to go into RE teaching, because unfortunately not every RE teacher in schools are Christians. So being a team of Christians ourselves, and we're seeking out a life of faith and adapting God's tools for living in our perfect lives, we're the hands and feet of Jesus. So we're coming in to add an extra dimension of Christian teaching to the schools, to the classroom. And our passion's to help the children connect with those Bible stories and to gain a more detailed, a more relevant, and a truer insight into Christianity before they leave their primary education. We have different teaching styles, different creative and expressive methods, which you've got there. And we've got the Understanding Christianity. There are so many different ways and different methods of bringing the Bible to life for young people. We have whole day events, we do social skills programs, clubs, collective worships, or assemblies as they called them in my day. We still do sometimes. And they're all ways of bringing the Bible to life in a way that can attract young people and engage with them, and to seek to apply the values exhibited by Jesus' teaching and make it relevant for today's young people. I mentioned about the social skills classes. They're a small group of normally 4 children chosen by their teachers who they feel will benefit from small group work. And the aim is to encourage the children to discuss issues such as low self-esteem, to enable them to develop integrity, to make wise choices, and to feel confident with themselves and their peers. Each lesson involves a DVD clip. I don't know if some of you may have heard of Max Lucado. He does some wonderful CGI cartoon animations. And they're really relevant, and they've got a good, strong message, but they're presented in a way that will hopefully be engaging to the young people. The children, over the 4 or 5 weeks that we do the social skills, have their own folder to stick their work in, which they can take home at the end and show their parents. Our social skills groups, they run for 5 weeks, and each lesson is an hour. And even though you've got a small group of 4, and normally there would be 2 of us in each lesson, it can still be a bit of a challenge, because the pupils that they choose, that the teachers choose, are actually they're very different. Some of them may be in need of attention because they have attention issues, and the others may be because they're the ones who are kind of the quiet ones who get forgotten about. We do collective worships and whole day events on various different topics. Some of the collective worships are, the subjects are decided upon, or the themes are decided upon the schools, and then we come in and to teach about the relevant subject. Whole day events are varied. We do ones for Christmas. We do a fantastic one for Easter, which is called Sounds of Easter, where it's very interactive, and you're going through the Easter story, and all the pupils sit in a circle, and there are various different props that they can help to make all the different noises. So we even have a wood with a nail, so they can bang a nail. There's a jug with Ribena, not wine, so that we can pour when we do the Last Supper. And the last time we did it, we only had 1 spillage, and that was actually a teacher. We also have what's called our SHAPE Club. SHAPE is an acronym for sharing, helping, asking, praising, and expressing. And it's sort of like an after-school club, which we run as a few of the schools. And it's also an opportunity for children to explore prayer using discussion and craft. Not always just sticking things and putting things together, but sometimes in music and drama as well. And that's either during a lunchtime session or some of them are after schools as well. I'm going to talk about some stories. It struck me doing social skills lessons, how important I mentioned about those young pupils who are the quiet ones, who don't always have a voice in the classroom. They may be intimidated or silenced by their peers, and it just is an amazing opportunity for those who are like that. And I have to say, I was like that as a child, and I really wish I'd had the opportunity to do something like this. It might have made me a bit more assertive. It's an amazing privilege just to see those young people, and they're different ages from sort of 7 to 9, to literally come out of their shell and just be a bit more communicative. And you just sort of really hope that what they learn over those 5 weeks is something that they can hold on to and to build upon. We did have one girl who, in the self-esteem social skills, the video that we show is about a little community where if you do something right, you get a star put on. If you do something wrong, you get a spot. And the main character is covered with spots. But the story, the moral of the story is that it doesn't matter whether you have spots or whether you have stars. You have to be true to yourself. And the community have they're sort of like wooden puppets, and the lead character goes to see the puppet maker, who is what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of is supposed to represent God, and he learns through the puppet maker that these spots and these stars don't matter. And one of the girls in the social skills class, when at the end of the 5 weeks said, "What have you learnt?" she wrote, "Nothing matters." But we knew what she meant. I'm going to pass on to Dave, who's going to talk about the secondary section. Thank you. That one.
Okay, good morning. It's a privilege to be speaking to you today. I'm Dave Luft, and I'm the new boy. I just joined really just before the summer, so I've still got a fair few things to learn. In fact, this is my first slide presentation this morning, so bear with me if I get it slightly wrong. And I used to work in Sarum Academy as the head of Year 7, but felt God call me over to the Bridge Project because I joined Sarum Academy as a pastoral manager, and which I was working one-to-one with pupils, and my role kind of changed a little bit, where I was doing a bit more attendance and things like that, so more admin. And I felt that I wasn't really having that contact with the pupils anymore. So when I saw that the job at the Bridge came up, I thought this is the place to be. And so I got the job. I don't know if many know of Dan Churnside. Does anyone know Dan Churnside? Just the one. He used to work as the secondary section leader, as I do now, and he went on to the Baptist Church in Salisbury, so that's why I thought you might have heard of Dan Churnside. So yeah, it's a privilege to be here, and here we are. There's myself, and then we've got Sophie Burdett. She's a lay chaplain in St Ed's. She's there Thursdays and Fridays. She's working part-time, and then we've got Mel McDaniel, who is a lay chaplain in Sarum Academy and also in South Wilts Grammar. So, if I can click on to the next. Oh, we've also got Graham Brown, who is a volunteer in S6C as well. So you can see that the schools that we're in Sarum Academy, South Wilts, S6C, Avon Valley, which is the schools that I go to, and Wyvern and Leahurst Swan, and then Sophie's in St Ed's. So we do cover quite a range of schools. We're hoping to, in the future, at some point get into Stonehenge, and also into Trafalgar as well. But I think that will be to come, really. So what do we do? Well, we offer something called the Alice course. This is something that Sophie Burdett wrote and put together. She's one of the lay chaplains. She put this 7-week course together designed to help young girls, really, I suppose young women rather than young girls. And it's all about identity. It's all about self-image. It's about just knowing who they are a bit better. Because, in these days, they are told and bombarded, told that they are something different from the media. So it's trying to combat that, really, and just let them know who they are and the value that they have. And that we find that is very successful. Who is Alice? Well, it's you and me. It's the ordinary, everyday girl trying to journey through the highs and lows of their teenage years. And we see quite a lot of success through that course. Of course, it's just the girls that do it, and we're working on a boys' course as well, which is, I think, it need to be called Man Alive or something like that. But yeah, we see many young girls go through that course, and from time to time they will have anything ranging from about 10 to 25 girls on this 7-week course, which is really encouraging. There's lots of take up for it, and especially St Ed's and South Wilts will be really keen to get this in to do that. So what's a lay chaplain? Well, it's one that I really struggled with when I joined, actually. I thought, what is a lay chaplain? I don't even know that. I've been in church most of my life, and I don't know what a lay chaplain is. But I have found it to be quite a useful term, because it's something that schools understand. And something that schools understand is useful for us, because we want to be seen to be ticking their boxes as well. We do have what we want to achieve in bringing that faith, hope and love to young people, but we also need to provide a service for the school, otherwise we wouldn't be in there. And if schools understand the term lay chaplain, then that's useful for us, I think. But what we mean by that is that it's predominantly a one-to-one service. So I'm a lay chaplain in Wyvern, Lea Hurst and Avon Valley, and pretty much what I will do every day that I'm in those schools is provide that one-to-one service for any young people. And I'll have probably about 5 young people come and see me throughout the day, and we'll go through their problems or their friendship issues, or it might be that they've got anger problems that we try to help them with, kind of being that listening ear and guiding and befriending them. And we really do see a lot of success through that. So there could be anything from about 15 people a week that I would see, and then about 10 for the other lay chaplains. So that's quite a lot of young people that we're seeing every week and being able to talk to. And sometimes we can actually engage with them and talk about God as well. Not most of the time, but it does happen, and we're trying to look at ways in which we can do that more. Obviously, in this day and age, we have to be careful because of just how just one thing could lead to another, and then there could be all sorts of things that we just need to be careful. So we are very aware of that as well. We do Christian unions. And prayer spaces. If you don't know what a prayer space is, it's like we take up a bit of a space in the school, and so for a whole week we'll go in and we'll provide this prayer space so they can come, and there's lots of activities. It's not just come and sit down and pray. It's let's go through, and one of the things is that we put some salt on the floor and they can write things in the salt, and then the idea is that you can just wash it away. You can get rid of it, and it's lots of creative things like that to try to engage with the pupils, because they find that sort of thing a lot more helpful, especially if you don't really have any understanding of how to pray. So that's what a prayer space is. We kind of set up a big place in the school. We do drop-ins. We do assemblies. I don't know if you'll know Alex, but he's the director of the bridge, and he's been there for about 3 or 4 years. Just before Christmas, Alex and I went into Wyvern and Sarum Academy and into St Ed's, and also into Sarum St Paul's, the primary school, and we did an assembly that we based on the Chase. I don't know if you know the Chase with Bradley Walsh, but we basically did that assembly, and we were able to, we kind of counted up who we think how many young people we did that assembly to, which had a gospel message at the end, and it must have been almost 2,000 young people. So we are in a privileged position to be able to speak to quite a wide number of young people in and around Salisbury, which is a privilege. Just to tell you, just before I tell you a couple of stories, just to tell you as well, we've got Kate Moody on the team, who is our mentoring coordinator, and this is a service that we provide. Again, it ticks a lot of the school's boxes, but also is a way of getting our church family, our wider church family, so anyone here, if you're interested, into the schools, because this is we've got 28 active mentors at the moment, and what happens is once a week, that mentor from any church would go into the school, and they would meet one-to-one with this young person, and the idea is that you'd have that same person for a whole year. So if somebody, and these, it's not the pupils that are really struggling, that those either myself or the other lay chaplains might see, or if they're worse, they would probably be seen by professionals. But so it's the young people that often get missed, the sort of nobodies, and what happens is they would meet with a mentor and once a week for a whole year, and that provides that just encouragement and support to them. So all the way through the year, they know they're always going to get that time with their mentor, which might be something that someone here is interested in doing, and that's why we're here, just to see if we can get more people to sign up. So yeah, that's the mentoring scheme. So a couple of stories. It is a privilege to go into the schools, and we do see a lot of success. But how do you measure success? It's quite a hard thing to be able to say, well, we've achieved this or we've achieved that. We'd love the young people to, I suppose, become Christians and come to church. That would be the ultimate. But what we do see is, I remember talking to a young lad, and I see, unfortunately here, some incredibly heartbreaking stories, heartbreaking kind of family backgrounds. It is fair to say that most young people that we see, and this is not a fair representation of everyone in the school, but most of the people that we see, most of the pupils that we see, come from a family background which has kind of been, I suppose, there's separation involved. I suppose dysfunctional families, dad is off, and now mum's with boyfriend number 4, and pupils are growing up and not even sure who they are. Who's my dad? I don't even know. That's the sort of people that we come across. And so one young man was having anger issues, and we were trying to get to the bottom of where the anger was coming from, because he was getting himself into all sorts of trouble. He was getting himself excluded and stuff like that. And we're asking the stories, who are you? Who's your family? Who's your dad? Who's your mum? Just asking those sorts of questions. And it came out really that unfortunately, 2 weeks before he was born, his dad died in a car crash. And the person that was driving actually survived. And when I asked him how he felt about that, he said, yeah, it was something that played on his mind on a regular basis. And I said, have you ever talked about this with anyone? And he said, no. And I said, just out of interest, have you been able to forgive the person that did that to your dad? And he said no. And so over the course of about 2 weeks of seeing him, he actually forgave that man who had effectively killed his dad before he was born. So we do see, things like that, some encouraging stories. And that boy has now gone on to be able to kind of control his behavior a bit better. I think, don't know if we've got time for any more. It's probably, it's things like that we're seeing on a regular basis, that we're able to help young people to, it might be forgiveness, that is an issue for some young people, but being able to encourage them and just say, some young people are told all sorts of things, even by their dad or by their granddad or someone. I remember one young boy who said that he didn't do very well in a maths contest at school, and his dad actually told him, "Well, you're thick then, aren't you?" And it's heartbreaking. Who would do that? Who would do that to their own son? And so he believed for many years that he was completely useless because of this comment. And you're able to sort of go into that and unpick it and straighten it out and put that right and say, look, that's not true, is it? You're not thick. You're clever. Let's go through your subjects. Let's look at what you're good at. And he's able to believe, that is, I am actually all right. And sometimes it's unpicking those things. So, I suppose other things that we do as well, we are able to do things like after-school clubs. We do a band club in Leahurst Swan, which is not particularly achieving much that we want to achieve, but it helps keep that door open with the school. It helps build the relationship, and we're seeing a few young people really come to that club, and they're learning bass, guitar, and drums, and singing, stuff like that. So it is a privilege to do the work that we're involved in. I think that I am done, and so back to Daniel. Thanks for listening.
I'm the expert on these presentations because I've done one before. So, as I said, we've got a team of about 40 volunteers, but we are always on the lookout for more, whether it's working with primary or secondary school children. So you may think you might not have anything to offer, but trust me, just to have the opportunity of going into the schools, whether you're just listening to some of them reading or whether you're helping them with a shape club, and doing some sort of art or drama or just being there. I think that's one of the most important things that we can do is just to be there, to give them some attention, because they may not be getting that attention at school because they're the quiet ones who sort of want to hide themselves in the back, and they may not be getting that attention at home either. And it's just such a privilege to go in and just help someone and to try and be a difference. Another way that you can help us is with prayer, because as the gentleman said, prayer always works, and it's just to have maybe 5 minutes in a day just to think of the work that we're doing, to help to pray for that would be a really big thing for us. So thank you very much. I understand that the church is already a big supporter of the bridge, and on behalf of the team, thank you very much for that support. We have, if you'd like to support us in any way through prayer, through volunteering, Dave and I will be at the back after the service. There's a sign-up sheet with regards to signing up to volunteer in whichever way that you feel God is leading you to. Please be aware that all the information that you will be given is data protected. So there is just a form for you to read through before you wish to sign. One of the most common statements that we hear of people for not volunteering is, I'm not relevant to young people, or young people won't like me because I'm too old. God can use anyone, regardless of their age, their background. It's really not true. Some of the best workers that we have, that we're seeing, are people who had previously thought that. Back at the start of the presentation, you may have seen the picture of the lady that I mentioned, Brenda. She is a lady of a certain age, and yet she is so well loved by some of the pupils of the schools that we go into, and they will recognise her as soon as they come in and come over and give her a big hug and say hello to her. Please don't feel that you're too old, that you're not relevant, that you're not, you don't have to be the best theologian in the world. Just to have that time, just to share that time with young people is what really, really matters. And as I said, prayer is absolutely vital. We've got a spiritual battle going on, and we're very blessed in the area that there are a lot of schools who are open to what we have and realise that what we're doing is actually in essence helping the school, it's helping the teachers, it's taking pressure off them. But there are also some schools that are not wanting us to come in, and just pray for those schools that there will be a moving of the Holy Spirit to I want to say crack that nut, if you'll pardon the expression, just to maybe thaw that indifference towards the work that we're doing. We issue, there's a weekly prayer email and a termly prayer newsletter with a prayer diary, which again you can sign up for. And we also have occasional prayer events. This just gives you some brief details about how you can help financially, and we've got donation gift aid forms available too. And finally, thank you very much. I think we've got a lot to learn from young people. There's the gospel passage where we are surprised by the faith of the centurion, who would be the last person people were expecting to believe in Christ. And just want to leave you with these two things. Firstly, do we have the faith to believe that our young people can discover and encounter Christ in this area for themselves, and that we can play a part in this? And coming back to the young person that you may have thought about before, earlier in the service, maybe thinking, what part can you play with the bridge? And secondly, just to remind us ourselves that in Matthew 18 verse 4, Jesus says that we ourselves must become like little children, lose all the cynicism, the baggage, and just completely and utterly trust in him. And as I mentioned before, please pray. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Barry, for letting us come there this morning, and we hope to speak to some of you after the service. Thank you very much.
Yeah.